pleased that people are...
Chris, you want to move that up?
50 years after his assassination.
The thing that struck me is how small it is.
You want to leave it there? It's in the right spot? You sure?
That's the amazing.
Yes.
Okay. That's all right. Fine. All right, let's roll. Welcome, everybody, to the Township Council meeting Monday, April 22nd, 2019. This meeting is now called to order. Would Mr. Michael Quaddy come on up and say the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. Mrs. Kraus, please read the statement of public notice.
Take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with NJSA 10:4-8 and NJSA 10:4-10 as follows. The notice of the meeting was prominently posted on the bulletin board at the municipal building located at 225 Main Street, Little Falls, New Jersey on January 2nd, 2019. A copy of the notice was mailed to the North Jersey Herald and News and the Record on the same date. Additionally, a copy of the notice was filed in the office of the Township Clerk on said date.
Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordner?
Present.
Councilmember Kawadi?
President.
Councilmember Seaver? Councilmember Vanchery?
Present.
Council President Scoba.
Present. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
A second.
Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll.
Councilmember Cordner?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Councilman Kawadi?
So today's Earth Day, and as being involved in the Green Initiative as I am, I want to recognize this day and its importance, not only to our community, but to our country as a whole. Earth Day and the environment are of paramount importance to us and need to be focused on. So I hope that everybody took an opportunity today to do something to with the weather getting in the way, of course, at least consider the environment and how it affects our lives and how you can have a positive impact on that. And with that said, we are having a town cleanup day on May 4th, which I believe the mayor's going to talk a little bit more about. But we will have a town cleanup day on May 4th, and we're going to encourage everyone to come out and join us in just keeping the community beautiful and litter-free. Thank you.
Councilman Vanchery?
Thank you, Council President. I have no slides tonight, so don't worry about that. I'm looking forward to another slide deck from you. I just wanted to just touch base and say this past Saturday night, myself, Council President Scoba, and Councilwoman Cordnier attended the American Legion Post-108's 90th anniversary gala. You know, one thing this year to recognize the American Legion in town is celebrating 90 years. So it was a great event to attend, be there with the veterans among all different wars. There were some veterans from years past and more recent. And, you know, one thing, too, I think we were stressed throughout that event on Saturday night was to try to get more members. They're always looking for recruitment, especially from veterans who have served more recently in Iraq and Afghanistan. So if you know anyone in town that is looking to be a part of the American Legion, please feel free to reach out to them. Just in terms of, you know, what we're working on for next month around Memorial Day, I'm pleased to report that everything is coming nicely together for the parade. We've got a number of different participants. We're meeting next Tuesday here at 7 o'clock just to fine-tune some details around the parade and also just making sure that we're in a good place for the event that's taking place the night before our free concert in the park. So we're looking to have the participants that are going to be there, you know, just going through some of the questions or concerns they may have, finalizing their needs that day. And I'm also pleased to have been some nice feedback from different organizations in town looking to be a part of this, to have a table set up just for the night to raise awareness about their organization and hopefully sign up some new members. So that's it for me.
Councilman Vanchery, where is this concert in the park?
So
What park?
The concert is going to be in Wilmore Road Park. It's going to be from 6 to 8:30 p.m. They run a little over that, but you know, it's a pilot. We have 4 different bands that are planning to be there. We're going to have 3 food trucks, and like I said, a number of different organizations will have a table set up to provide some information.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cordnier?
Yes, thank you. Just a reminder that on May 10th, we'll be having our very first Spring Fling Dinner Dance from our Senior Advisory Committee. We're really looking forward to get a big turnout.
The Harvest Moon dinner dance that the committee puts on in November gets well attended, and so we're doing another one by popular demand. We also had a very big turnout for our MSU theater arts students. I don't know if you've seen any of what got posted on Facebook of some of their performance on their choral group, and they were just really outstanding. We had about 38 seniors come, which was really a big turnout for us, and they really enjoyed it, and we're going to look to add another performance in the fall. And the committee is working on some more educational opportunities for our seniors and some more events. Coming up, kind of mark the calendars in June, on June 13th, Little Falls Business Association, in conjunction with the Township, will be working on its 3rd annual block party. That's really a great fun night with so many of the restaurants and vendors coming to the block party. Our police department closes off Patterson Avenue. They really do a great job, and it's really great fun for everybody. And I do want to give a big thank you to John Pace and the rec department. Although I caught the tail end of the Easter egg hunt, I heard it was an incredible turnout with some really major numbers. So thank you again, Mr. Pace. I hear it was a big success. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council, do you have anything?
Not this time.
This weekend, as I was driving around the town on Easter Sunday, I noticed quite a few motorists being pulled over. And I was talking to the chief, and it looks like his department had a very successful campaign against texting while driving. It's a very serious offense when someone thinks that they could text and still drive and navigate the roadways, especially here in New Jersey with the amount of traffic and the different types of intersections we have. So, Mayor, I think that's a very good program. It was good to get that grant, and I think it clearly sends a message that texting won't be allowed in the Township of Little Falls. Mayor Belford Damiano.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, we were successful in obtaining a grant for texting while driving, and just earlier today we submitted to receive another grant for the Click It or Ticket campaign, which is another great campaign that the department runs here in town. So hopefully we'll have some good news in response to that grant submission shortly. That said, just to further a little bit about what was discussed a little earlier about our concert that we'll have coming up in the park before our Memorial Day parade. We actually are in the process of finalizing the installation of speakers through Wilmore Park that will make that area, they're completed now. They're actually fully completed now. They will be able to play music, they have microphones that will work, so everyone will be able to hear the presentations that we've always struggled to hear in the past while attending our ceremonies at Wilmore Park. So I'm excited to have those up and running for the next couple of weeks during the start of our summer season there in the park. Next I have, with today being Earth Day, an Earth Day proclamation that I would like to read, especially in light of our town-wide cleanup day that I will discuss a little bit more in just a moment. Whereas all species play a unique role in the complex web of life and contribute to the ecosystem services on which all life on Earth depends, and hence protecting our species is crucial to the survival of this planet and its inhabitants. And whereas wild animal populations have declined on average by more than half when the Earth is facing an era of mass extinction. And whereas the loss of species is for the most part a result of human activity, including degradation of our ecosystems, deforestation, pollution, and climate change. And whereas by 2050, it is estimated between 60 to 70% of all people will live in cities, and species provide important services to city dwellers, such as generating oxygen and purifying air, controlling other animals considered pests or that spread disease, pollinating plants and crops, providing recreation opportunities and well-being. And whereas many plants, wild animals, and pollinators live in urbanized landscapes, and cities thereby have a responsibility to examine the ecological impacts of expanding urban areas and how to protect biodiversity. And whereas it is understood that sustainability will only be achieved by meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations. And whereas it is more important than ever to cooperate locally and internationally to defend the environmental progress that has been heretofore gained. And whereas it is essential to expand and diversify the global environmental movement to achieve maximum progress. And whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship commitments, and sustainability efforts. Now therefore, I, James Belford Damiano, Mayor of the Township of Little Falls, have the distinct honor of proclaiming April 22nd, 2019 as Earth Day throughout Little Falls, and encourage all citizens, businesses, and institutions to use Earth Day to celebrate the Earth and promote the protection of our species today and everywhere, especially here in Little Falls on May 4th, 2019, for the Township's community cleaning effort, where we will meet at 10 a.m. at the Civic Center to commence the town-wide cleanup. And in that, as we indicated, on May 4th, there will be a town-wide cleanup that we are encouraging anyone and everyone to join us at the Civic Center at 10 a.m., where we will be breaking out from to clean up specific areas of the town where there's ample debris. The DPW will be providing some gloves and some grabbers and some bags and things of the sort in order to help facilitate the removal of all the debris and the garbage. So I encourage everyone to join us there. That's available. You can spend 15 minutes with us cleaning up if you'd like. You can spend the entirety of the day if you'd like. It's up to you. But any help would be greatly appreciated. We encourage everyone to join us there on May 4th. And that is all that I have, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, can I have a motion and a second to approve the mayor's appointment of Ann Kawadi to the Little Falls Library Board?
So moved.
Before we vote, this is for a 5-year term, is that correct?
That's right.
And that, I guess, expires 2024, or sounds like a space age date, right? 2024. Okay. Ms. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Abstain.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes, congratulations. Can I have a motion and a second to open to public hearing on the 2019 municipal budget?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Would anyone like to approach concerning the 2019 budget? So you know what's come forward. Can I have a motion and a second to close to the public hearing on the 2019 municipal budget?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need a roll call on that? Just a voice. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, let signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to approve resolutions A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Ms. Kraus, read ordinance 1348, please.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1348, an ordinance entitled Calendar Year 2019, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget cost of living allowance and to establish a cap bank.
Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public hearing on ordinance 1348?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of this signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1348?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1348?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Cordero?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba?
Yes. Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public meeting for agenda items only?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Mrs. Kraus?
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so to the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes, however, if appropriate. You may be granted additional time in the sole discretion of the Council President.
The floor is open. See no one come forward. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Quattie?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Under new business, Mrs. Kraus, please read ordinance 1349.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1349, an ordinance entitled Ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, amending the Township Code, Chapter 143, Parks and Recreation Facilities.
Can I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing on ordinance 1349?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1349?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1349?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Quattie?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1350.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1350, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to Authorize the Undertaking of Sanitary Sewer Improvements at Various Locations in by for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $300,000, pay the cost thereof, to appropriate township infiltration and inflow reserve funds, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public hearing on ordinance 1350?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1350?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. It's pretty dry stuff, right? Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1350?
So moved.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Quattie?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes, Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1351.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1351, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to Authorize the Reconstruction of Pony Road and Veranda Street in by for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $325,000, to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate a federal grant, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Can I have a motion and a second to open to public hearing on ordinance 1351?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1351, please?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1351?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Quattie?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1352.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1352, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to Authorize the Undertaking of the 2019 Road Improvement Program in by for the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $675,000, to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Can I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing on ordinance 1352, please?
So moved.
Second. I'm sorry, who was the second? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1352?
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1352?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, please call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Quattie?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scoba.
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1353, please.
Second reading and public hearing of replacement equipment and machinery, and new automotive vehicles, including original apparatus and equipment, in buying for the Township of Little Falls and the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $838,000, pay the cost thereof, to appropriate a state grant to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Can I have a motion, a second, to open the public hearing on ordinance 1353?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. The floor is open. Looks like, Mr. Simone, you're going to get your equipment. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on 1353?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1353?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scola?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1354, please.
Second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 1354, an ordinance entitled Bond Ordinance to authorize the undertaking of various public improvements and the acquisition of new, additional, or replacement equipment and machinery in by for the Township of Little Falls and the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $930,000, to pay the cost thereof, to appropriate Township Open Space Trust account funds and a federal grant, to make down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public hearing on ordinance 1354, please?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing on ordinance 1354?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 1354?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Kraus, call the roll for 1354.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scola?
Yes. Mrs. Kraus, read ordinance 1356, please.
Introduction of ordinance number 1356, an ordinance entitled Capital Ordinance of the Township of Little Falls in the County of Passaic, State of New Jersey, authorizing the undertaking of the downtown Little Falls streetscape improvements projects, phase 1, in by and for the township, appropriating therefore the sum of $700,000 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from a state grant with a second reading and public hearing scheduled for May 20, 2019.
Can I have a motion and a second to open to the public hearing on ordinance? I'm sorry, did I miss? Right.
Introduction, no hearing.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Right?
Just intro. It's intro.
Okay. So do we need a motion? There's no public hearing then? Just to introduce. Can I have a motion and second to introduce? Roll call, I'm sorry. Am I correct? No. Right, motion and second to introduce.
We got into a rhythm there.
Right,
No.
let's back up a second. Let's get it right. It's a motion and second to introduce. Is that correct, Counselor?
Correct.
Is that voice vote?
No, that's
No,
roll.
that's roll call, correct. Can I have a motion and a second to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Kraus, call the roll.
Councilmember Coordinator?
Yes.
Councilmember Kawadi?
Yes.
Councilmember Vanchery?
Yes.
Council President Scola?
Yes. Are we good, Counselor?
Perfect.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second to, so we're not adopting at this point?
No, we don't ready for public comment.
Right, public comment. Can I have a motion and a second for public comment on 1356?
So
No,
moved.
no, open to the,
Open to the public, I'm sorry. Can I have a motion and a second to open to public hearing on motion, on 1356?
no.
No, no.
Just regular public comment.
Right, we're going right to public comment, I'm sorry. Always happens when the counselor starts correcting me.
I'm going to sit further away.
When's his contract up?
Not soon enough.
Can I have a second, can I have a motion and a second to open the public comment for general matters only?
So moved.
All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Mrs. Kraus.
Anyone wishing to address the Township Council may do so through the Council President. Please give your name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. However, if appropriate, you may be granted additional time at the sole discretion of the Council President.
The floor is open. Anyone? Anything on anyone's mind?
Are we into the field business yet or not?
Field business. You could talk about what's, it's general matters, so you can gladly talk about it.
Well, I'm just wondering what the, Jim Sestone, 23 Jackson Street, Little Falls.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm just concerned about the drainage we're going to have at the field. I don't know what's going to be done there yet. Right now, we have a situation where the whole field practically comes through my yard. From the parking lot on the field, it's on the north side, from the baseball fields, from the tennis court, and in between, comes through my yard, through the garage, down the driveway on the side of my house, down to Jackson Street. I'm not in a flood zone. The flood zone ends in the front of my house at the street. Most of the water comes from the field. I'm just concerned on what's going to be done in that situation to get the water in another direction. We had Oak Place on the side of my house has been paved probably 3 times since I'm there. I think it was paved twice last year. That's quite a bit higher than the field. And right now, it's higher than my curb to my driveway, so the water comes off Oak Place right into my driveway in front of my garage. I don't know what the situation with that would be, but I'm concerned with the field and where the water's going to go. That's my main concern.
Okay. So, Mr. Sassone, your question
Mr.
to...
Sestone.
Sestone, I'm sorry. His question is regarding, first of all, you have a current problem apparently with there's water, that whenever there's heavy rains that you have an issue?
Well, if you look at it today, you'll see that there's a lot of water there today. It wasn't a heavy rain.
Okay. Mayor, would you like to address this?
Absolutely. So this was actually one of the major concerns and reasons that we are going to be making the turf improvement to the fields at Duga Park. One of the biggest concerns that I've heard on an ongoing basis, never mind heard, I've witnessed myself on an ongoing basis, is the fact that both the larger and smaller fields turn into smaller sized lakes when we have substantial rains, just because of the amount of water that comes down lately and because of the really the fields being overused over the course of the year. And with that, one of the reasons we were looking to move the turf was because with the turf upgrade comes some substantial infrastructure upgrades with the ground there, including drainage, that will, the intent is alleviate the majority of the water issues, or really all of the water issues on the fields, and relocate that water from the fields to our drainage system. So that is certainly something that will be improved during those upgrades. The other part to the upgrades there will be a result of the pickleball courts that have previously been discussed here amongst the council. And the pickleball courts, one of the concerns is that's going to be increased in some impervious surface there. Because of that, what we're looking to do is to compensate for not only the increase in impervious surface, but also the overall drainage issues that we have there, and overcompensate by putting in underground storage tanks, as well as the infrastructure upgrades to alleviate the issues with the additional water that we have in that area, which is actually directly adjacent to your backyard. So there should actually be, between these two things, a substantial upgrade to the water issues that we face now at both of the Duga fields.
Will the tanks release water to sewerage area, or where's the water going to go once the tank fills up?
They'll percolate into the ground.
Into the ground.
Right, so the intent is to store the water when the ground is saturated, and then as the ground...
And there's no overflow on them once they're full?
There's going to be an overflow that goes to our drainage...
I would guess.
on Jackson.
So it would come down Oak Place to
Underground,
underground?
correct.
All right.
And that's only in the event they actually do fill to the capacity.
I mean, the parking lot was put in, naturally it couldn't get drained to Patterson Avenue, so it's draining into the field. So we have all that situation. There's a lot of water. I have pictures here. It's not...
Adding a catch basin or something similar, a drain into that parking lot, is part of what the intended work.
We're talking about 6 or 8 inches running through my yard and down the driveway on the side. I can show you pictures here.
Yeah, that area of the field
It's
is
pretty big.
saturated oftentimes, so this...
So the whole field, every year there's clay put on the baseball fields, builds it up. Everything keeps going
But with the turf...
up on your end, and my end is staying the same or going lower.
Well, with the turf, that will be the end of that era of the field continuing to get higher, because the infields will also be turf, and we won't have that issue anymore.
What is it, a continuous drain throughout the whole field that's going to empty into this tank?
Correct. There's several base layers of stone and things of the sort to...
Drainage pipe underneath?
Correct.
And it's going to go into the tank, but it's going to be relieved by a,
So only the water by the pickle near the tennis courts is going to go towards those tanks. The rest of it will head towards the county drainage system.
where's the county drainage system?
Under Patterson, no. It's going to head backwards towards the...
Towards a bed tube,
What do you call it?
or a bed tube used to be.
Right. So the back of the big field that you've,
That,
it's going to head back that way. There's a drainage system.
that's still uphill compared to my property, because the tennis courts were built up, the drain was put on the high end of the tennis courts
So the
and the field.
This one is, I believe we saw the bottom of the road, so it is lower in the back of the fields, and it will head from there down towards the Pheasant Mountain.
Yeah. You know, I'm talking a long time. Fred DeFuria was on this board, and there was supposed to be drainage put on the field. And we're talking, you know, close to 50 years probably.
We're finally doing it.
They was going to put a drain, the drain was going to go on the field and take everything away, and it's still in the situation. And now it's a little worse because everything's getting built up. I mean, there was an ice skating rink where the athletic building is now, or the rec building. So that doesn't take water anymore. That you got runoff, that whole field is coming down towards Jackson Street.
Hopefully, most of it will be taken by the drainage system before it gets there.
All right.
Mr. Sestone, you could give, Mr. Crucier your pictures.
Crucier, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I have all the pictures for you. I'll give
Anything
them
else,
out to-
sir?
Where's that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else like to come up? Seeing no one else come forward, can I have a motion and a second to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to this motion signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion signify by saying nay. This meeting is now closed to the public.